Okay, so this panel's topic is Navigating DeFi, when will the next summer bloom? So from stablecoins to Uniswap to on-chain derivatives, DeFi has played a crucial role in the development of the crypto space over the past decade. And we are always looking forward to the next DeFi Summer. So today we have invited several DeFi builders. And before we dive into the topic, please introduce yourself one by one. Okay, Ryan.
I'm Ran, co-founder of Orderly Network. Good to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm Yond, aka Peter. I'm not Lemon. I'm not as good looking as Lemon. She's not here today. So I'll talk about DeFi topics today.
Hi everyone, Rachel Lin here, co-founders of Sync Futures derivative platform.
Hey guys, Ryan from MYX. We're relatively new on-chain perp DEX.
Hi, I'm Jason from Bella Protocol. We're a liquidity platform that streamlines user experience in crypto asset management. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So today's DeFi has grown over the years and into a multi-billion-dollar robust ecosystem. And in a diversified market, DeFi's position is shifting. So we can talk about what is the current state of the DeFi industry. So Ryan first. Ryan first. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think overall, we as an industry, DeFi has absolutely attracted a lot of users, essentially more capital investors than actual users into the space. Currently, we have around, I think, about $40 to $50 billion invested in crypto space. And that's because the nature of capital investment is to maximize profit. And since 2020, when the industry developers actually started to use smart contracts to build apps and giving governance tokens as incentives, this attracted a huge flux of capital on chain. And this has been quite successful in the 2020. But then I think if you're asking me what the state of the current industry is, I will say this, right? I wouldn't discuss a milestone like, we're having 50% of the spot trading now is owned by AMM models. So I'm not going to talk about those milestones, but rather as an industry, we're at a stage that we're starving for users. And I think the industry overall is going to be fighting for users in the coming months and years to actually provide organic yield for the capital that's already invested in the protocols that we have. Because enough is enough. Investors are getting fed up with the token incentives, which could end up worthless if the protocol didn't grow, didn't have enough users. So overall, I think we're at this stage of trying to onboard users, and that's where we're going.
Okay, so Jason next.
So I think from the past years, we've seen the infrastructure being built. We have now more scalability solutions, more L2. So now with the DeFi, you can see more cross-chain interoperabilities, so which means less costs for the users. But like Ryan said, more focus on the user experience and solving the use cases and bring cash flow to your projects is going to be important for not only DeFi, but all the crypto projects in the world.
Okay, so Ran, you.
Same question.
Okay.
I'm quite bullish on the future of DeFi. Despite that this cycle, DeFi has not been a hot trend yet. But I think in terms of TVL, users, transactions, all the numbers have picked up. And if you compare the products that are out there with what we had during DeFi Summer, I think it's a lot better, right? Even like just between the group here, a lot more usable, a lot more things abstracted away. Although I think certain things like the AMM, like another primitive, has yet to be invented this cycle. But I'm very bullish on the future and where this is all going. And I would agree that the focus is on essentially improving UX for all types of users.
Okay, so Peter next.
Yeah, I would say DeFi is kind of stale right now. We can say from a user's perspective, I can say we're almost traumatized, if I can say that, because we are so sick of all the points programs, staking programs, farms, points farming, et cetera. But at the same time, we also see the user experience of DeFi getting much better compared to like in 2017, 2018. And user education is definitely better as well. I can name a few examples that DeFi projects that do pretty well in terms of user education, user onboarding users. But in general, I would say like from a user's perspective, it's definitely DeFi is not as exciting as in let's say like 2017, 2018, or even 2021. But we are slowly growing into a layer of infrastructure instead of like something that can excite the users. But it's a I would say like a mandatory process for an industry to grow into a bigger stage, because when we forget about all these like Ponzi's, like crazy APIs, what's left, right? So we definitely have to like consider the usefulness of all the DeFi tools when you compare it to TradFi. Banking services, you have a lot of like financial tools to help you manage your capital well. So like I guess DeFi can do the same as well. Like so, I would say the next opportunity for DeFi is definitely user experience.
Okay, so Rachel for the end.
Sure. I think that from the positive perspective, you could see the TVLs of DeFi industry have recovered to, I think, like close to $100 billion level, not too far from the autumn high. And that the industry has further developed into a very comprehensive ecosystem where you have lots of instruments available on chain, like from trading, lending, insurance, prediction market, etc. But I agree with all the other panelists. Right now, the industry is eager for the next breakthrough and hunger for innovations. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's just that, I think like number one, the innovation is still there, but what makes this cycle different is that during the last bear cycle, I would say infrastructure got the most investment and easily raised the industry's excitement and capture all the attention to their projects. Solid projects are still developing, and making not too huge, but still very significant and important improvement. And on the other hand, I would say we're still, I think in the first phase of the bull market, in that the new retails still not coming in the industry yet, and with the greater adoptions, I believe that there will be a need for basic instruments like the DeFi instruments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So as today's cryptos industry moving forward to the mass adoption, and in recent years we have been dazzled by new mechanisms based on smart contracts. And some people have proposed the concept of DeFi 3.0, which means of the UX improvement and etc. And what form do you think the future it will take? And how will it differ from the previous DeFi narratives? So Rand first, you.
Yeah, I think the next generation of DeFi should be a few things. One is omni-chain. So there should not be fragmented liquidity across different chains. That's the case right now. If you look at Uniswap, Arbitrum, it's a complete separate product to Uniswap, Polygon, right? Sometimes the UI is even different. I think it should be a complete platform where you're accessible from any chain, and it's the same product, right? You can deposit, trade, or do whatever, and then withdraw native assets from any chain. I think that's where, so kind of like a centralized experience, a centralized exchange experience. And two, I think, basically exchanges should feel like centralized exchanges in DeFi to have a chance at getting market share from CeFi. Now, we're not there yet, right? There's a lack of on-off ramps. Liquidity is fragmented. there's too many UX issues with bridging in and out, interacting with bridges at all, and using wrapped assets. These are all pain points that can stop any retail user from even getting remotely interested in the product, aside from some of the security issues that DeFi has, right? Like hacks and such. I think once this stuff is all solved, and like we're tackling it from like the chain abstraction angle, then you have just one experience for users across any chain, right? Ideally, they don't even have to deal with the chain, but that problem would be solved by the onboarding part, like through account abstraction wallets and such, that just makes it a really smooth onboarding, perhaps with the chain in the background. And I think one day we're gonna, well, hopefully soon, we're gonna have like a Binance-like experience on chain. Same thing, you know, deposit withdrawal from any chain, one smooth experience between EVM, Solana, even Bitcoin, right? Some people are tackling that through layer 2s. But the whole experience of the app is unanimous across chains, and the liquidity should not be fragmented, just like a centralized exchange. I think it's possible, and that's what we're tackling. But I think that's kind of the end goal. So then you'll have the Binance experience, the liquidity, the UX, but you'll also hopefully have the interoperability of DeFi, which actually makes liquidity and yields easier to aggregate than CeFi, which is very fragmented. And yeah, and I think that's kind of and then you have the transparency of DeFi, and also the tokenomics where everyone is a stakeholder.
Okay, so next, Peter.
Sorry, what was the question again? Web3, DeFi innovations.
What form do you think the future DeFi 3.0 or next generation of DeFi will take?
Yeah, so I would say like, unrealistically speaking, I would say like the best innovation of DeFi is that people forget about the term of DeFi. So that, let's say like if you're using like your daily apps, for example, TikTok, Instagram, you can directly like use all the financial services on it. We've seen a lot of like Chinese apps doing it, like for example, like Taobao or Didi. They're using some of like I'll say loans, to provide to the users. And I would say like to benefit from DeFi as a technology, we have to emphasize the part where all the infrastructure can provide them like better services and capital efficiency, like instead of like to emphasize the part about trading. So yeah, I think personally speaking, I would say it's very cool to see DeFi being used in our daily, I would say like apps, and to have more people benefit from these technology that's been super focused on privacy, decentralization, permissionlessness, stuff like that. So we really couldn't expect a future where DeFi is still what it is today, because in terms of user adoption and accessibility, DeFi is definitely not the best case right now compared to like financial, like traditional financial platforms. But it's cool. It's cool. Like imagine buying like Bitcoin, Ethereum spots in TikTok, right? That should be a very fantastic. That should be a very fantastic experience.
Okay, so Rachel.
Sure. I would define DeFi 3.0 as the area when DeFi really integrated into the greater economies. And I would feel like the DeFi 3.0s, or I mean the mass adoptions of DeFi, does not only rely merely on the DeFi itself, but also the evolutions of the digital economy. That's my point. So I'll repeat it again. So the mass adoptions of DeFi does not rely on the DeFi itself, but also the greater development of digital economy. Because there was a time I remember when I was with the internet giant for blockchain industry, when we searched so hard to find an application for blockchains. We would love to revolute the trade finance industries, the payment industries, and somehow it does not come through successfully. And there was a time I'm a little bit confused and wonder when the broader blockchain application will happen. We have to admit that until today, I think most of the user case in Web3 still concentrating around 3 categories. One is asset issuance, second is trading, and thirdly is yield farming, right? So when will be the time where there's real applications and adoption? But right now, I mean, like looking at the industry and being in the industry for quite some time, I started to realize that it might be wrong since the beginning when we would love to sort of apply the blockchain into the existing financial system because it's so hard. There's so many parties out there that they just don't want it to be so transparent and so open. But the hopes right now become so clear because of the evolutions and the advance of the digital economy. Say for AI, right now to build the digital economy, you don't rely on human itself, but also rely on machine, right? And then the boomings of the digital economy would naturally require the financial system, require the currencies that is open enough, transparent enough, and easy to accept enough for the industry to work. And yeah, I believe that the time is not too far away from us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Ryan next.
Yeah. It's actually quite interesting to have this opportunity to reflect on the journey that we have been, right? So since 2020, a bunch of us are super interested and excited by this idea of DeFi 1.0. All right, back then there's no 1.0 because 2.0 is not yet there yet. But then 1.0 for me personally is about recreation of the traditional finance services in a decentralized context. And basically this is a period of time where the project's just creating value out of thin air because they're just giving governance tokens as incentives. And all of the capitals that used to be parked in central exchanges now have a place to go to earn extra money, and off they go, right? This is DeFi 1.0. 2.0, though, is about the interoperability between DeFi projects, and the composability part of it makes it so that with a single dollar now it can farm 2 different tokens. And you can't really call that an improvement, actually, because you're just farming more. So basically, it's kind of weird for me at a point where all of the DeFi projects have a multiple valuation based on the TVL that they have. Because basically, to me, as a financial guy, what's TVL? That's by definition liability to the protocols, because you got to pay back the principal and plus interest. So that's a liability for you. Imagine Apple being valued by how much liability that they have. If all the companies are being valued by the liabilities, then obviously the Chinese real estate companies should be the Apple that we have today. So it doesn't make sense. So by that point, I just want to talk about that as an industry, we didn't really evolve that much. So we're at a point where the infra has been developing quite a bit over the past few years, especially the Duncan upgrade. That's really lowered the gas cost by more than 90%. And I think we're at a point where this new narrative of DeFi 3.0 could be around onboarding users. So having products that's really user-centric, really caring and developing product that's going to abstract the complexity of crypto away from users, not letting the user have to worry about what a wallet is, what private keys are, how to make sure that the funds are safe, how to bridge. All of these complexities needs to be abstracted away. So, intent-driven swaps, basically a compromise right there between decentralization and centralization, right? You have filters to solve that complex problem that's faster and cheaper compared to the previous pool model bridge that we have. So solutions like this, abstractions like abstractions, is really going to improve the user experience. It's going to help retain and convert users in the space. And I think one super important thing is that the wallet industry in crypto needs to improve in a big way. So they need to function like the apps that we have, like WeChat, Pay and Alipay that's helping the other apps out there today. So basically, essentially, you need to have dApps that's connecting to the wallet apps instead of having dApps needs to be running instead of exploring inside a wallet app. So basically, these are the things that I think will drive user growth going forward. And that's what I think DeFi 3.0 is going to be about.
Okay, thank you. So Jason, do you?
Yeah, thanks. So I think aside from the user experience, I also want to talk about the product offerings. So if we look at the roads that we've been through so far, we can see the composability play into the DeFi Legos, right? Because at the beginning we have like liquidity providers, simple swaps, but now you see projects doing option hedgings, you see projects doing interest rate swap and making a stable coin out of that. So it really shows how this composability of DeFi can play into the real world. So I think besides from the user experience that we should focus on and improve on in this next paradigm, next phase of DeFi, we should also try to make more product offerings to the users that's organic, that's secure, that's stable. Because if we compare to like 4 or 5 years ago, we already have some like native yield, organic yield on this platform. And if you compare to 10 years ago, we already have this digital economy that's at users' fingertip instead of going to bank and going to financial institutions. So so we already help a lot of those unbanked and normal day retail users to get exposure to U.S. Treasury bonds at their fingerprints, get exposure to real assets at their fingerprints. So I think in this next DeFi 3.0, we should also focus on what other real assets or financial opportunity offerings we can offer to the users.
Okay, so here's another questions for Rachel and Ryan. And as you both develop in the derivatives tracks and in the development of the derivatives, competition between DeFi and centralized exchanges is inevitable. So what do you think are the advantages of decentralized derivatives over centralized exchanges? Especially as Ryan just said, for the user experience growth. Okay, Rachel first.
I go first? Okay, sure. I mean, first, like as known to many people, number one, openness definitely can, because in one centralized exchange, you are not able to use your fund to trade on another centralized platform's product, but this is something that's possible in DeFi. Definitely the other thing is transparencies. I would say that most of the problem concentrating on the traditional financial industry is its opaqueness, because you wouldn't know what the protocol and the company has done with your funds and how they liquidate you at what levels, but this wouldn't be the problem on DeFi. But having said that, I would say that these are the features that people care during all those crisis times and bear markets. It wouldn't be the I would say the deterministic factors or the most important factors that drive people to use DeFi. So what drives people to DeFi would be some of the key features that luckily also Sync Futures have, right? Number one, varieties of assets. So you've got to offer something that in centralized platforms, your user wouldn't be able to receive. So for example, in Sync Futures, we have this permissionless listing feature where you can use one single token to list any assets in terms of derivatives. And the second part is that with all those varieties of assets, you're able to really integrate it with the whole ecosystems to offer the whole world's products to your users with their controlling of their assets and keys. And this is something that I believe that in the near future could play an even more important role as we advance in the digital economy. Yeah.
Okay, and Ryan?
Yeah, thanks. So I think about this problem. Really, I think centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges are not here essentially to compete with each other. Because I think as an industry, as we grow, we sort of will be more sophisticated or segmented when it comes to serving users. So I think going forward, one simple and inevitable segmentation of users is between the users that's going to stay as a pure financial investor and those users who are essentially Web3 users. So what I mean by that, so if you are a user that's trying to only to invest, trade, and hold cryptocurrencies, then obviously go to central exchanges because they provide the best cross-chain wallet that exists today. So by having a central exchange, you can sort of buy with your fiat currency any token on any public chain that's kind of popular that exists today. So these are the guys and institutions that's going to enjoy the cross-chain capability of centralized wallets, enjoy the the regulated custodies of the central exchanges, because some of the institutions by regulation they cannot deploy asset on chain. That's one thing that decentralized exchanges have to face today. But the other group of users, which is a group I think is growing rapidly over the past couple of years, are the Web3 users or the DeFi users. They have their assets in their wallets, so they even though they have to deal with the complexity of having to bridge over different public chains every day, but they enjoy the alpha that exists only on chain. They are the pioneers of the space. They buy tokens that are not listed yet on central exchanges. So for them, DEXs are naturally a better venue for them to trade on, if not if the user experience is not too terrible for them. And that's verified by the fact that we have a lot of market share with the AMM model, with the Uniswap taking about 50% of the overall spot trading market share. So I think DEXs and SEXs, DEXs is like a convenience store. We're close to the users because the Web3 users have their asset on chain already. We're close to them. We offer accessibility. Whereas central exchanges, you have to deposit, and it's kind of painful process for the users. The less that they have to go through, the more enjoyable the experience will be for them. For CXs, they're like supermarkets. They offer more for cheaper, but then you have to drive to get to the supermarket place. Right now, so I think it's going to be a sophisticated market, and we're trying to service the part of the user that's more Web3. So I think when it comes to serving Web3 users, obviously what Richard just said, composability, the ability to use any asset on any chain as collateral, the ability to manage a cross-chain portfolio margin, that could be something very interesting for the users. And I imagine, like Ron has said, that the DEXs will be offering a similar user experience as central exchanges, and we also have a quite similar ecosystem as well. So going forward, I think we'll be serving different groups of users separately. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So here's another interesting question. So governance is an inescapable topic in DeFi. And recent governance attacks on protocols such as Compound has also been a wake-up call for protocol governance. And so how do you think we can balance the interest of giant whales, retail investors, and protocols in the operation and governance of the DeFi protocol? So Jason first.
Okay, thanks. Well, I think the ultimate goal for any protocol is to sustainable growth. So, and that should be aligned between either whales or retails or the ecosystem. So, and in terms of DAO governance, it's still a young way to structure a company or a project. So let's be patient. It's still an ongoing experiment compared to, let's say, corporate structures, right? So, so currently I think there are like a couple aspects that we should focus on. The first is the voting mechanism. How do we balance the retail and the wealth and to represent the benefits of the most, or to represent how to represent the voice of the most. So there are processes like delegations, time vested, voting power, things like that. But we should also focus on that being an experiment is going to fail. So what should we do when such governance or DAO voting mechanism fails? So we should have safeguards mechanism in place to act as a last line of defense for the emergencies. And also the voting mechanism to be transparent is also important to keep everyone on the same page. So I think those are the aspects that we should focus on the DAO governance part.
Okay, Ryan?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's interesting we're talking about conflict of interest again, because at the beginning of the crypto, we're dreaming of a world where crypto assets is going to solve the trilemma between the interest of the users and the employees and the protocols. Because if you're a user, you own some of the tokens, you're kind of 3 in 1. So right now we sort of have this separation of whale users and retail users and protocol. That's an interesting scenario that we're in. I think to answer that question though, I think it comes back to what decentralization is. So let me share an observation here. So if you're talking about mining power for Bitcoin, it's the most decentralized network that exists today. They are concentrated in several entities. If you look at market shares in trading, Binance are dominating the market, and Uniswap actually own more than 50% of the spot DEX volume. So centralized concentration or monopoly is the end game of commerce, if you will. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not the same as, so its concentration is not the same as decentralization. So what decentralization stands for me personally is transparency, and therefore fairness and accessibility. So if in the end there are some rules in DAOs and governance that will make sure that we don't compromise these values, these fundamental values of decentralization, transparency, fairness, and accessibility, then we shouldn't be worried too much about wealth and retail investors, because our interests should be aligned. Yeah, and I think we should have almost a constitution-like rules in DAOs to help safeguard that. You can't just vote to change everything. And having that in mind, I think we're probably setting the good path.
So do you think, is there any need for regulations in DAOs?
I think there's going to be fundamental rules that cannot be changed by voting, and that essentially is law. We don't necessarily need law or enforcements to actually help that happen. That's like another layer of fundamental value for decentralized projects, right? We don't need law. The rules are in the smart contracts,
Okay, code is law, like that. Also, Rachel?
Yeah, but my view is that the beauty of the decentralization is that everyone could find unique needs. I mean, someone would love to have regulators out there behind every project. It is possible for them, right? And then it's just that different people might, in the end, go for different protocol. That's my view. So first of all, I do feel the attack on the DAO, like recent compounds, etc., is common. It's even common in traditional finance, where you heard about like hostile takeover. There's white knights, and it is part of the evolving process of the governance. And secondly, I do feel like before we ask about the questions on how to balance and wheels, retails, and others, we need to know the targets or the main goal of these services, who you are serving, for whose interest you are fighting for. As I just now said, might be like some of the, in some people's idea, it's best to have a most fair system where everyone have a vote. And you could sacrifice the efficiencies and other aspects of the protocol running. That's fine, right? And some other groups of people have different idea on making a balance between the both, and then like have some other people might love to even enjoy sort of like supervisions and laws and governments out there for their systems, and that's different people could have different choice, but I will believe that there's no right or wrong in that. And the good thing about blockchain is that you can experience all of them, and you could develop into different systems and different protocols that suit different people's needs. And yeah, that's something that's exciting about the industry.
Okay, so Peter?
Yeah, I would love to answer this question. I would love to address this question with another question. Like, how many of you are actually a supporter of decentralization, and how many of you actually care about decentralization, right? So when you talk about DAO governance, 99% of the cases, the users don't really care, right? The largest stakeholders of protocols, they do care, and they vote for themselves, they vote for their own benefit. Is that another type of centralization, right? So when you think about DAO governance and, especially like V tokenomics, it's usually the fight between three parties, counterparties. The first one is the protocol itself. The second one is the stakeholders who let me take DEX for example, right? So the three counterparties of a DEX is usually the DEX itself or the protocol itself, and the liquidity providers and the traders, right? So traders really care about like the small friction, like as small if a DEX can provide like as the lowest price impact as possible, then users will eventually go to the DEX to trade, right? And so when we question about V tokenomics or DAO governance, it's usually, I would say, the equilibrium between these three parties, right? So you have to align the interests between those three parties. So in this case, if I'm protocol, I actually care about decentralization. Users are actually they don't really care about decentralization. But so it became like a fight between the protocol and the stakeholders. So what you're gonna do, right? So for example, the liquidity providers, they're usually not opportunity seekers. They seek long-term, stable yield and security as well. And they are the long-termist of a protocol, right? So when we talk about traders or users or retail users, it's usually, short-term benefits are usually what they most care about. So as a protocol for Izumi Finance, I would say like the best case we can do is to align the interests by carrying the benefits or the benefits of these two parties. So what we can actually do is that we will redistribute, protocol revenue to these two parties, through multiple means. Like for example, like constant buybacks. Buybacks of our own token and airdrop as well. Like so, we redistribute the tokens we receive from airdrop farming as well. Because as an example, as a protocol, we do receive like a portion of airdrop from, let's say, like the foundations of chains, and we'll redistribute them 100% like to the stakeholders and also to the users as well, so that like in sacrifice of our own like revenue or profit, we take care of both the short-termist and the long-termist. So it's very complicated when we talk about DAO governance, because decentralization is not very. It's not a necessity in many cases, right? So I would say it's a plan, but it's not the ultimate plan. It's not the end game of DeFi.
Okay, so Ran.
It's given the state of DeFi now, how it's not that hot, I think governance is kind of a non-issue because not enough people care, right? As he said, I think we should focus on, I mean, it's all about the ecosystem. Even governance is about the ecosystem. We should focus on how to distribute tokens to the right people. I mean, there's a lot, so like airdrops, who we raise from. I mean, since the very beginning, Orderly, we've tried to raise only from strategics. And you know, the right people, when they have your token, how to get them to actually contribute, to keep, whether it's being an LP or to trade or to do something that helps the whole ecosystem and to grow with you and in return get more rewards, right? And how to distribute like protocol revenues back to them, via some sort of value capture, so that people care, right? People have to have your tokens, they have to care, and then they might want to partake in a vote, right? That's kind of the last step that, you know, that people would even bother. And even that revolves around incentives, how people vote for listings, maybe how they vote in the case of like Curve to direct rewards. It's very incentive driven. And then the final step after that, maybe they care about changing like a parameter or the fees on your protocol. I think it starts from getting people interested and the incentives and getting them to care and to spend time. And then lastly, it's like making these governance decisions in a decentralized way.
Okay, so here's the last question. But since we was just lack of time, I hope that speakers can answer this question as simple. So DeFi Summer, we already know in 2020 took place on Ethereum. And within which ecosystem do you think a possible next DeFi Summer will mostly like to take place and why? Since all of you are building your own project on Ethereum or EVM related ecosystem, and then I wonder if there's another possible potential chances for other ecosystem. So Ryan first.
Honestly, I don't know, and our whole standing is that we don't care because we'll be on all the ecosystems, right? In a way that's not fragmented, it's combined. Everyone shares our order book, so whichever one does well, whether it's Solana or Monad or Barachain, will likely benefit, right? So I think that's the stance that we have.
Okay, and Peter?
Yeah, I would say it's going to be in the ecosystems that are super focused on consumers. Because actually, like to be very honest, we don't have many users, like as many users as in before, given the whole like global economy being down bad, and you know, we really don't have a lot of like new people coming into crypto. And I think what drives the adoption of DeFi is definitely to break the fourth wall and bring in new users. For example, like you can pretty much like onboard the Gen Z to crypto, because I always talk about this to my friends, that you know crypto is really the intersection between a financial industry and the entertainment industry, right? So attention is priority. So who gets the attention, right? So it's of course the Gen Zs, right? They are so powerful in terms of like promoting ideas and culture. So when we talk about like memes trading this year, a lot of them are actually like memes that are going around on TikTok and on Instagram, on 4chan, like these like Gen Z related topics. So I would say they are definitely the window, the breakthrough of in real life and crypto, so that ecosystem that focus more on the consumer side. For example, I can name a few. For example, like Base, Solana, Monad, Barachain. Yeah, I'm actually a huge supporter of Barachain, and they did pretty well in terms of onboarding like consumer apps. As long as they bring in those people and they have like a complete like cycle of like how they retain the users and also retain the capital, we can call it a success, right? So we don't actually need those users to know about DeFi to understand the complexity of DeFi and the the magic of DeFi. All they want all we want them to know is that you use this app, you're gonna make money, right? So that's simple. So yeah, I would say like consumer-based or consumer-focused public chains or ecosystems will be the next place where the DeFi magic will happen.
Okay, no financial advice. Huh? Rachel?
In the longer term, it's very hard to say, but in the shorter term, as you mentioned, the next, I think the broader Ethereum or EVM compatible systems still has one of the most vibrant communities and for users and developers, and even new public chains are trying to position themselves as EVM compatible. So these will be the groups of users and communities and developers that would attract different ecosystems to invest into. So I do believe that there's still a great potential in the ecosystem.
Okay, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily going to happen in any particular chain or whatever. I think it's likely to happen in a cross-chain setup where there possibly could be a super app which is offering a full life cycle service to the users. Essentially, I think it comes down to the basic understanding that the user doesn't care which chain you're on. The user is the user of the app. If they enjoy and love the user experience and the services that you're providing, they don't really care if you're on chain A or chain B. So basically, I think the user will need to stop worrying about which chain they're using. Transmitting data across different cloud services. By that I mean, like, for protocols, public chains are like cloud services that you're deploying on. They shouldn't care about if you are transmitting data across chain or not at all. So basically, I think it's going to happen in a cross-chain setup, and it's going to be done via heavy abstraction of the current crypto user experiences. Things like wallet abstraction, chain abstraction, things like that in a super app. That's something that I'm looking forward to.
Okay, so user experience determine everything. Okay, so Jason?
Yeah, I agree on Ryan that I think at this stage we're not that winner takes all kind of stage. So yeah, I think there's potential for all the chains out there. Yeah, so but comes to the vibrantness of the DeFi projects, I think it comes down to like three important factors: the scalability of the chain, the cost of the transaction, the developer activity, and the user activity on those chains. So, and like Ryan said, we need to have new users and more new users come into the crypto and then come into DeFi.
Okay, so thank you everyone so much for sharing in today's panel, so impressive. And we also hope that DeFi as the core of crypto can continue to develop in prosperity and innovation. And so it's time to dinner. Okay.
Thanks, Zai, and our guest for the insightful discussion. And there are a lot look forward in DeFi space, I guess. 非常感谢在和我们5位嘉宾非常精彩的讨论，让我们看到了 DeFi 市场更多的机会。